Hi, we're Team2 and we're going to be leading you through a small tutorial about PHP. PHP is a very simple and commonly used language which I'm sure all of us have worked with at some point in time. My name is Dhanya and I will be leading you through the introduction, a brief history and a little bit about the compilers that PHP uses. So let's jump right into it. PHP is a server-side scripting language designed initially for web development, but it grew into a general-purpose programming language of its own right. As of 2013, PHP was known to be installed on more than 240 million websites and 2.1 million web servers. PHP is intrinsically simple and easy to use. It can be mixed with HTML and can be deployed on most web servers, operating systems, and platforms. PHP is generally interpreted, which means that processing time is more and performance tends to take a hit. After the code is interpreted and executed, the web server sends output to the client, usually in the form of a partial web page, an image, or some other data. The man you see on the right is Rasmus Lerdoff, the father of PHP. He initially wrote PHP to track the number of visits to his online resume. He called the suite Personal Homepage Tools. Over time, he rewrote PHP tools, and it was capable of more advanced functions, like database interaction, and providing a framework over which users could develop simple web applications. In June of 1995, the source code was made public, and developers were able to use it as they saw fit. Let's take a look at the compilers of PHP. The most common and inbuilt Zen-PHP. It compiles PHP to an internal format, working as an interpreter. However, due to the complex semantics of PHP, it is difficult for competing implementations to offer complete compatibility. PHP's single request per script model and the fact that ZendEngine is an interpreter led to inefficiency. In fact, in order to speed up execution time, PHP scripts can be deployed in the PHP engine's internal format using an opcode cache, which caches the compiled form of a PHP script to avoid the overhead of parsing and compiling the code every time the script is run. While Zen-PHP is the most popularly used implementation, many other implementations do exist. They are either compilers or support just-in-time compilation, hence offering better performance at the cost of lacking full PHP compatibility. Let's take a look at some of those compilers. Hip-Hop Virtual Machine. Developed at Facebook and available open source, Hip-Hop Virtual Machine converts PHP into a high-level bytecode, which is then translated into machine code, which runs dynamically using a just-in-time compiler at runtime. It results in up to 6 times performance improvement. Parrot. It is a virtual machine designed to run dynamic languages efficiently. It transforms PHP into the Parrot intermediate representation, which is then translated into the bytecode and executed by the virtual machine. Phalange. It compiles PHP into common intermediate language bytecode before execution. And last of all, Hip-Hop, which was again developed at Facebook and available open source. It transforms the PHP scripts into C++ code and then compiles it, resulting in about 50% less server load.
Hi all, my name is Akshat, and in this part of the video I would like to talk about applications which are built in PHP. The 3 categories I identified are content management system like WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. They're all written in PHP. Websites like Facebook, Wikipedia, etc. all use PHP and some form of PHP for their server-side scripting. Uh, the third is online applications and games, especially the apps and games that you play on Facebook are all PHP. So server-side scripting can also be done using technologies like ASP.NET or Java Server Pages, but PHP has one of the largest market share when it comes to server-side scripting. So before we see any PHP code, I would like to show you how to go about getting the development environment set up. So search for examp and click on the first link. So XAMPP is the most popular PHP development environment, and it comes with Apache Web Server, MySQL, PHP, and Perl. So go ahead, install XAMPP for the operating system that you use. So once you have installed XAMPP, you will now have access to XAMPP control panel. So go ahead, start Apache Web Server so that we can run some PHP code. And as you can see, the exam web server is the Apache web server is now on, and it uses port 80 and 443. So make sure no other applications in your computer use these two ports. So if you have Skype installed, make sure to change the settings in Skype. Before we see any PHP code, I would like to talk about some features of PHP. So PHP is a weakly typed language which implements dynamic type checking. It does not support multiple inheritance. PHP has a lot of predefined global variables called superglobals, and they are always accessible regardless of their scope. And these super variables are nothing but associative arrays, and we'll talk about them later when we talk about the code. So the examples of these global variables include global, post, get, server, etc. PHP also supports dynamic variable or variable variables, which can be used to set and use, which allows us to set and use variables dynamically. This is a small program to print hello world. The first echo statement that you see prints hello world in the regular fashion by printing just the string hello world. These two lines you see over here are making use of variable variables. So the variable a here stores the string hello, and the double dollar sign and a is actually a variable variable. So what a variable variable does is that it takes the value of a variable and treats that value as the name of a new variable. So here $a is actually hello, and $hello is the name of the new variable, which in turn stores the string world. So when we do this echo statement, this $a over here prints hello, and here the $a inside the parentheses is evaluated first, which gives us the string hello, and $hello in turn gives us the string world. So this is what variable variable does. And this echo statement is basically the same thing, because as you can see here, $a is nothing but hello, and $hello is nothing but the string world. So these two statements both give us the string hello world. So now let's execute the program that we just saw. And as expected, we can see three lines of hello world. The first one is by the echo statement. The second and the third are by the echo statements which use variable variables. So this is another program to illustrate the use of associative arrays in PHP. Associative arrays are those arrays which store a key value pair. So in this case, roll number is an associative array which is storing roll number as the key and the name associated with it as the value. We can use a small for each loop to print these pairs. So as you can see here, the key actually acts as the index, and you can fetch the value associated with the key using a syntax like this one. So PHP uses these associative arrays to implement its global variables, which are called superglobals. So this is the small form, and it uses some PHP global variables like server, which takes in the key PHP self. So PHP self is basically a key which is associated with a value which is the location of the script in the server. So these global variables are made by the server when you load the page. And similarly, when you fetch some information using a request method like post or get, you enter the f name, which is the name of the text field from the form. So those names are basically key associated with the value which is entered by the user. So this is how global variables work in PHP. So now let's run the code that we saw. So as expected, we are seeing the results from the for each loop, which shows us the key and the value, and a small form where you can enter any name, and this name basically gets stored as a value in the array. So Hack is a programming language heavily inspired by PHP. Hack was developed at Facebook to overcome the flaws of PHP. Facebook still uses PHP because of legacy reasons and because it's very expensive to move to a different language when you have a code base as huge as Facebook does. So with Hack, what developers can do is they can add statically typed code into their dynamically typed PHP code base without breaking the code. So in this way, they can add more type security to their code. Some more differences between PHP and Hack are as follows. PHP is dynamically typed and Hack is gradual typed, which is a combination of static and dynamic typing. Both PHP and Hack have different delimiters. PHP code can be mixed with HTML as we saw, but Hack code cannot be used with HTML. In PHP, you don't have to specify data types when writing function arguments and return values, but in Hack, you have to specify data types while writing function arguments and data types and returning values. So this was Hack. PHP itself is influenced by languages like C, C++, and Perl. PHP is said to have Perl-like syntax and all the dollar signs in front of the variables and the echo statements come from Perl. So I have all the code that I showed you and the presentation on my Bitbucket repository, so you are free to check them out. So this was a small tutorial. Thank you.